All right, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming to the June monthly call. It is finally summertime. I'm sure a lot of you are excited about that. I know you're probably still busy wrapping up the school year and either launching into summer or just getting organized for, the next school year already. This is Stephanie Loop. I'm going to be doing the monthly call this month for Misty Woods. She is in the field today. So we'll go ahead and get started. Today's agenda, we're going to be talking about the administrative reviews and procurement reviews, CEP election overview, SSO overview, SFSP overview, FSMC overview, health inspection reminders, audit report submission reminders, summer EBT reminders, memos, upcoming trainings and events, Louisiana Tray of the Week, and then upcoming changes for the Division of Nutrition Support. All right, first we're going to talk about administrative reviews and procurement reviews. So for the 25-26 school year reviews, CNR and LDOE are working on approving submitted corrective action, and we're closing out the last remaining reviews. LDOE is currently completing follow-up reviews for those SFAs determined high risk on their 24-25 school year reviews. And as a reminder, this is the first year we've had to do those follow-up reviews. In the past, we were able to do waivers to be on a 5-year review cycle. USDA no longer accepts waivers. To be on a 5-year review cycle, we are required to do follow-up reviews for any high-risk sections. For the 26-27 school year, there are currently 33 reviews scheduled. If you're unsure of what year you will be receiving an administrative review, the administrative review schedule is found on the CNP website under the school food service resources. If you need help finding that, we're happy to help direct you to it. Once the follow-up reviews being conducted for this school year are complete, state agency staff will begin scheduling technical assistance visits for those SFAs being reviewed during the 26-27 school year. Technical assistance visits may begin in June and continue throughout the summer months. LDOE is planning to conduct approximately 50% of the scheduled AR and PR reviews for the 26-27 school year, and then the rest of the scheduled reviews will be conducted by our contractor. Follow-up reviews are currently being conducted for those SFAs that were deemed high risk for the 24-25 school year reviews. The follow-up reviews are only being conducted on the areas that were flagged as high risk. Those reviews must be conducted within 24 months of the administrative review or sooner. Those follow-up reviews are all being conducted by LDOE, and we're using a hybrid approach. So for the follow-up reviews, they may be on-site or off-site or a combination of both. That's determined on a case-by-case basis, just depending on the type of findings that were on the administrative review in 24-25. For repeat findings, the state agency does have discretion to apply fiscal action. The state agency may consider withholding program payments in whole or in part to any SFA for repeat findings that are not corrected. This is also done on a case-by-case basis, and we'll evaluate the causes of the repeat findings to determine the extent of the fiscal action. All right, next we are going to talk about CEP elections. Okay, so first, when logging into eScholar, users should access the login URL linked on this screen and enter your login information. The CEP Manager icon is the abacus on the navigation panel. The icon will only appear if the user has rights to the CEP Manager functions within the Security Manager. CEP Manager allows the user to view, update, and certify the population and election data. Once the state has approved the population submission, the district will see the approved status indicator for population. Click the Elections Recalculate tab. The first time you open the Elections Recalculate tab, you will need to select Load Election Data in order for the data to populate the site's selection. After you load the election data, please review that all of your sites successfully loaded under the location name. If you have a larger number of sites, you may need to click Load More. This page contains data pre-populated from last year's election submission, base year population data, and the current year population data from the April 1st, 2026 population tab. Current base year is the first year of your up to 4-year CEP cycle. The number in parentheses is the number of years that you've operated under this base year. The participation decision column will default to the prior year participation decision. Okay, so the Elections Recalculate tab. Sites, step 1 for elections. This section displays all sites associated with the group selected above per CEP provisions. The data displayed includes base year population data and current year population data. You must select a participation decision for each site. All sites set to a cluster or to individual participation selection will be added to the elections participation summary panel below, where additional actions are required for all participating sites. And then elections participation summary, which is step 2 for elections. This section displays all sites identified as participating, individual participation, or in a cluster in the sites panel above. The data displayed in the table will be dependent on your selection in the base year decision column. You must select a base year decision for each site. And then you've got the election submission tab. This is step 3 for elections. The elections data is based on the selections in the Elections Recalculate worksheet. These numbers should be reviewed and verified before submitting the data. Newly opened schools and/or schools new to the NSLP or SBP should contact the state agency to discuss if they're able to participate in CEP. These are handled on a case-by-case basis depending on if we have data for those schools. And please, please note the deadline for elections is June 30th for all schools, and this is a very hard deadline that is set by USDA. It's not set by us at the state agency. Okay, for opting out of CEP, you may opt out of CEP. SFAs and schools may elect to stop CEP at any time by notifying LDOE of the decision, and then also notifying the households of the decision and allowing ample time for submission of free and reduced price meal applications. SFAs must offer all students reimbursable free meals for a period of at least 30 operating days following the date of restoration of standard procedures or until a new eligibility determination is made, whichever comes first. All right, the end of CEP or your grace year. So what if the SFA doesn't have an identified student percentage of 25% or higher in year 4 of the current cycle? In this situation, the SFA may be eligible to stay on the option for an additional year, which is called a grace period. In order to be eligible for this grace year, the identified student percentage in year 4 of the last cycle must be between 15 and 25%. Therefore, if a system cluster in year 4 has an ISP of 19%, they could continue a grace year at 30.4% free cleaning and 69.6% paid claiming. So please note that non-federal funds are necessary if the total amount of federal reimbursement through CEP doesn't fully cover the cost of serving all students meals at no charge. So the term grace year can sometimes be a little bit confusing. It sounds like you kind of get a free year of CEP, and that's not the case. So note that if you've got an ISP of 19%, then you're only claiming around 30% at the free rate and around 70% at the paid rate. Income surveys. Alternative procedures must be used to determine economic status of individual students, since CEP schools are not allowed to collect free and reduced price lunch applications. School systems without meal applications may not be capturing kids that are economically disadvantaged based on income eligibility for free or reduced price meals. School systems can implement an income eligibility survey to collect students' family income data with the goal of accurately identifying these students for economically disadvantaged. Please note that alternate household income surveys are not school meal applications, and the costs associated with collecting household income information in CEP schools may not be charged to the nonprofit school food service account. Students identified as economically disadvantaged on income surveys are not considered identified students for purposes of the CEP. CEP schools are subject to the same basic record keeping and reporting requirements as schools conducting normal counting and claiming or operating under other special provisions. The state agency does assess the accuracy of an LEA's ISPs. In Louisiana, as part of the administrative review, the state agency will locate 10% or a statistically valid sample of identified student names on appropriate source documentation. Therefore, the SFA must, at a minimum, as part of the administrative review records, maintain the following ISP data for LEAs and schools participating in CEP. A list of all of the identified students with their ISP classification used to determine the ISP from all schools participating in CEP from each district, documentation for the total enrollment at all CEP schools, and the ISP worksheet the LEA used to calculate the ISP and submitted to state agencies with appropriate documentation. In addition, this documentation must be retained for 3 years after submission of the final claim for reimbursement under that claiming percentage. So if you establish an ISP in year 1 and you maintain that ISP for 4 years because you're renewing every year, then you've got to maintain that documentation for a minimum of 7 years. If you were unable to attend the live submitting CEP elections training, the slides and recording have been posted to the Louisiana Fit Kids website. So please reference that if you have any questions. If you have any CEP questions, please contact the Division of Nutrition Support, or you can contact Katie or Kylie directly. All right, let's talk a little bit about the seamless summer option. And just, I know that we've clarified this a few times, but just a reminder, the school team, so Misty's team does, they do administer the seamless summer option because it is a program under the National School Lunch Program. Our communities division, which has David Thibodeau as the director, is who oversees the summer food service program. So Toya is on David's team and they do SFSP, and Misty's team does the seamless summer option, just to clarify that. All right. So the SSO follows the academic school year, which is July 1st through June 30th. Therefore, if the sponsor will operate SSO beyond June 30th, the sponsor will need to submit a new SSO applications for those sites operating in July. You must submit 2 SSO applications in order to be approved to operate SSO in both program years. So we need the current application covers June, but we will need a new application if you plan to operate into the month of July. State agencies must conduct administrative reviews of all school food authorities participating in the seamless summer option at least once during a 5-year review cycle. Reviews of the SSO occur when the SSO is in operation during the summer months. So this month, LDOE will be conducting SSO reviews. SFAs receiving an SSO review should have received their announcement letters. During the on-site portion of the review, state agency staff will observe meal service at 1 or more sites. The USDA Food and Nutrition Services requires that SSO sponsors receive their SSO review in either the summer immediately preceding or the summer immediately following their scheduled school food service administrative review. All right, now we'll talk about the SFSP. For SFSP, there are several things that require state agency approval. All sites must be approved prior to the start of operations. You may not collect reimbursement on anything that isn't approved by the state agency prior to operations. If SFAs are approved for congregate meal service, meals must be consumed on site. Meals served away from approved locations without prior state agency approval will be disallowed. If children take meals off-site, meals cannot be claimed. SFAs must have approved non-congregate feeding sites established and approved within the C&P system before non-congregate meal service begins. The 2026 SFSP deadlines are listed on this chart and can be found on memo SFSP 26-02. For SFAs, the final non-congregate and other site applications were due by May 18th and or more than 14 or at least 14 days prior to operation starting. You can refer to memo again, SFSP 26-02, 2026 SFSP deadline dates for more information. If you've got any questions about this, you can always reach out to Ms. Toya Porter at toya.porter3@la.gov. All right, a little bit about food service management companies. As a reminder, we now have hard submission deadlines that all SFAs must follow for food service management companies. Step 1 documents must be submitted to the state agency by March 31st of the current school year for the upcoming school year. SFA should plan accordingly to ensure submissions are added to board agendas in time to meet the Step 1 deadline. If board approval is required prior to soliciting RFPs for food service management. Step 2 documents needed to be submitted to the state agency by May 31st of the current school year for the upcoming school year. SFA should keep this in mind when planning proposal openings. Further, keep in mind that the amount of time it takes the committee to properly evaluate proposals. Considering all of these factors will allow the SFA to work out an accurate and realistic timeline to meet new deadlines. Step 3, documents must be submitted within 10 days of award notification. As soon as the SFA receives Step 2 approval and notifies the FSMC of the award, the FSMC has 10 calendar days to submit the certificate of insurance and the performance bond. Performance bonds are only required if the procurement exceeds $350,000. All agreement amendments must be submitted to the state agency. They were all due by April 30th for the upcoming school year. All right, now we have some reminders about health inspections. It is the responsibility of the school food authority to request 2 food safety inspections from their local sanitarian office and to document their efforts. For those agencies that fail to obtain the 2 mandatory food safety inspections, LDOE will request documentation from those sponsors to show that they have made every effort to comply with federal requirements. SFA should document their request in writing for proper documentation of their efforts to obtain these inspections. So what happens if the health inspection was requested but not conducted? You can still enter it into the C&P website. You would select the school site just like you are adding an inspection. Choose no when asked if you know the date of the inspection. And for the reason for not inspecting, you would select the option inspection requested but not conducted, letter and date on file. Once saved, it'll show that you've entered this information in for the school site, and the system should allow you to submit your claims. If or when you receive the actual inspection for the school site, you can log back in and edit the inspections for that school site. March claim for reimbursement. A reminder will appear prior to submitting the claim asking if there are any current year health inspections that need reporting in the C&P website, and a response must be provided. For the April claim for reimbursement, sponsor users will not be allowed to submit claims beginning in April until their health inspection reporting has been done for each NSLP approved site. Audit report submission. In May of 2022, the State Superintendent of Education signed a memo directing all subrecipients of the LDOE funding to submit audit reports through the LDOE electronic audit submission portal. It's come to light that some sponsors didn't receive this memo and didn't know how to submit audit reports through the LDOE electronic audit submission portal, in addition to submitting through the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's website. It's also come to light that some of the private and parochial sponsors are exempt from submitting to the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's Office. However, the exemption mentioned in Louisiana Revised Statute 24-513A1B4 does not exempt the private and parochial sponsors from submitting audit reports through the LDOE electronic audit submission portal. LDOE, as a recipient of federal funding, must conduct oversight over every subrecipient of said funding. This includes oversight of compliance with federal audit requirements. Therefore, those exempt from submitting audit reports to the Legislative Auditor's Office are still obligated to submit through the LDOE electronic audit submission portal to comply with state oversight requirements. Questions related to the portal should be submitted to the Director of Internal Audit, Mr. Dudley. We've got his email address there as well as his phone number. The audit report portal can be found on the Louisiana Department of Education website, doe.louisiana.gov. From the home page, you click on the Data and Reports section. On the Data and Reports page, you click on the LDOE Single Audit Report Submission Portal. This will take you to the LDOE Audit Report System. Follow the instructions to submit the audit report. We understand that you as the SFA may not be the person at your school or district that actually submits the audit. However, we ask that you pass this information on to the appropriate person. Again, we've linked Dudley's email address and phone number here if you have any questions. Summer EBT. As a reminder, LDOE is not the lead agency for Summer EBT. Summer EBT is handled through the Department of Health. Eligible children will receive a one-time $120 Sunbucks benefit for summer nutrition support. Children who are automatically enrolled should see the Sunbucks amount added to their EBT cards between Wednesday, May 27th and Tuesday, June the 2nd. Families of students who were not automatically eligible can apply at louisiana.summerebtapp.com. Applications for this summer will be accepted until August 20th. Any applications received after August 20th will be considered for summer of 2027. If you do not need to apply, or families don't need to apply if their child was born between August 20th, 2007 and July 1st, 2020, and received SNAP, FITAP, Kinship Care Subsidy Program, or income-based Medicaid benefits anytime between July 1st of 2025 and August 20th of 2026. Or their child attends a school that participates in the National School Lunch Program or School Breakfast Program and was individually approved to receive free or reduced price meal benefits. However, families will need to apply if their child attended a community eligibility provision school where all students received a free or reduced price lunch but did not complete an application for NSLP or SBP. If you get questions about this, you can refer families to LDH's website for Sunbucks, or you can contact ldh.pebt support at la.gov with questions. All right, on to our memos. Memo SFS 2644 and 45 pertain to our SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid files. Please be aware that April SNAP and TANF data was loaded to eScholar Direct Match. The LDUE has run the statewide SNAP and TANF matches for all school districts, both public and non-public. And then we've got the batch numbers here. Same for April Medicaid free and reduced. All right. On May 8th of 2026, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food and Nutrition Service published the final rule expanding fluid milk options in child nutrition programs, which goes into effect next week, June 8th, 2026. This rule expands fluid milk options by allowing operators of the National School Lunch Program, School Breakfast Program, and Child and Adult Care Food Program for children to offer whole and reduced fat milk to participants 2 years and older. This rule codifies milk fat requirements following enactment of the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act of 2025 and supports the statutory requirement for meals to align with the goals of the Dietary Guidelines for Americans 2025 through 2030. By removing previous fluid milk fat content restrictions, this deregulatory rule restores flexibility to program operators, allowing them to offer a greater variety of fluid milk options, including whole and reduced fat milk, to meet nutrition needs and preferences of the children and adults they serve. USDA Food and Nutrition Service will follow up in the coming days with an implementation memo to provide information and guidance on implementation of the final rule. If you would like to, FNS invites interested persons to submit written comments on the final rule. To be assured of consideration, those comments must be received on or before June 8th of 2026. The link on the slide will take you to the expanding fluid milk options in child nutrition programs on the USDA website, where you can find the final rule and how to submit comments. One comment on the final rule: it does appear that before only lunch was included. It does appear that breakfast is included now, but it is still optional. It is not required for you to offer whole milk. It is up to the program operator. All right, trainings and events. Today, obviously, is our June 2nd monthly call. June 16th will be our PLE tool training. July 7th will be our next monthly call. July 21st and 22nd will be our in-person training for new directors. So if you are new or relatively new, we highly encourage you to come. It is going to be in person. It's going to be at Pennington. It'll get you some face time with us at the state agency, and we will also be covering, all the different areas of school food service and child nutrition that you need to know as a new director. July 28th will be our online NSLP application training, and as always, you can register for these trainings on Louisiana Fit Kids. Our virtual manager training will be held June 22nd through the 24th. The schedule is on the slide. To register for this training, the following criteria must be met. Participants must have their own email address. They must have a computer and reliable internet service at the training location. The computer must have both audio and video capability so that participants will be able to see, hear, and participate in the training. The assessment will be computerized, so participants are required to be proctored by the CMP director or designee. And SFAs may wish to host the assessment in a computer lab on site, especially if they have multiple potential managers that want to participate. The link to the virtual site will be sent to each participant, SFA, and proctor approximately 1 week prior to the start of the training. And again, you can register on Louisiana Fit Kids. We are asking for people to register by June 18th, so we have an accurate head count. We're also offering an in-person manager training from July 6th through 8th. The schedule is on the slide. This is going to be our in-person training at Pennington. The registration cost for this training is $80, and we do have limited seating for this one. So we are limiting this training to 40 attendees. We are providing lunch every day. And again, registration is on the Fit Kids website. Okay, if you're a new director, please save the date for our upcoming new director training. It's going to be July 21st and 22nd at Pennington. It's going to be really similar to the Introduction to School Nutrition Leadership training that the ICN offers, which Misty and Trandra have both attended, but they're really catering it toward Louisiana and what we feel like you as directors need to know for operating child nutrition programs here in Louisiana. The target audience is going to be for those directors with less than 2 years of experience. However, we will allow a director with up to 5 years of experience to attend if there's space. Registration will be posted on Louisiana Fit Kids website soon, and more information is to come. If you are registered for a training and you are then later unable to attend, you can always update or cancel your registration at any time. If you refer back to the email confirmation that you received after registering, you can click on Update or Cancel Meeting Registration. This is going to take you back to the Louisiana Fit Kids website where you can update or cancel your registration. You're then going to receive another email confirmation of the update or cancellation. Back to school trainings. I was hearing this morning that we're already getting requests for this. We are going to be offering a limited number of back to school trainings. We are only going to be providing civil rights and offer versus serve. You can begin sending your request to the general email address, childnutritionprograms@la.gov. Please, in that email, specify the date or the dates. If you've got more than one date available, it may be helpful to send multiple dates that may give you a better chance of having someone available to be able to come. Give us the date or dates, the time, and the location of the training. Trainings are going to be scheduled based on the availability of LDOE staff and the order of the requests received. If LDOE is unable to fulfill all of the requests received, we will have the recorded slides of civil rights and offer versus serve trainings available on Louisiana Fit Kids that you can still use for your staff trainings if you'd like to. We understand that's not quite the same as having a live trainer, but we will have that available as another resource for you if you would like to use that. All right, Louisiana Tray of the Week. The Sun Meal of the Week campaign is an 8-week initiative. It's going to go from this week, June 1st through July 25th. Each week, the selected meal photo will be featured on the Louisiana Fit Kids social media platform and website. And we want photos from any of the Sun programs. Those are all eligible. So Sun Meals, group meal sites for kids, Sun Meals to go. So to go or delivered meals in rural communities, or Sun Bucks, food benefits for purchasing groceries. All photos should accurately reflect, if it's a photo of a meal, it should reflect the SFSP meal pattern or the SSO meal pattern. You can send photos to Louisiana Fit Kids at pbrc.edu. You can also send questions to the lovely Kathy Carmichael, kathy.carmichael@pbrc.edu. All right, and finally, we're going to talk about some changes that are happening here at the Division of Nutrition Support. All right, CNP website changes. We talked about this last year in April at the state update, and now a year later, we're finally getting close to implementation. By the end of the year, the quote unquote old resource library will no longer be available. But no need to worry. All information has already been moved to the new website, which is the picture on the right. It's cnp.doe.louisiana.gov. You should bookmark this page if you haven't already done so. If you're accustomed to the old resource library section of the website and go to that page out of habit, pretty soon you're no longer going to see that blue screen. So at this point, you'll be redirected to the new website as seen on the right. So on the home page is where you'll click on either memos or resources, whichever you're looking for, to get to the necessary memos or resources that you're looking for. One thing to note about the new resource library is the improved searchability that we have for you. You can filter by resource type, program date, tag, or title to refine your search significantly and more readily pinpoint relevant resources. Our staff has worked really hard at this to help you be able to find what you're looking for more easily. It may take a little bit of getting used to, but we're here to support you through the transition. As you can see, on these screenshots, the different filters you can apply to narrow down your search and find what you're looking for. Select filters and click search, and the results will be narrowed down. All right, moving on to changes with memos. In the coming weeks, you will begin to see less memos being sent out. The reason being is that information that doesn't require an official memo will just be sent out through an email blast. So for example, when direct match files are available, you currently get a memo. This is going to be changed to a simple email blast. Another example, notification of upcoming trainings will come in as an email rather than a memo. You'll also begin to notice changes in the formatting and style of the memos. We'll no longer use the nutrition support logo that you see here on the left. It will now be the official LDOE logo that you see on the right. In addition to changes in memos, you will also be seeing changes with forms and other resources. You will also begin to notice changes in the formatting and style of the forms and resources. We're working on updating forms to have the official LDOE logo on those as well. We'll have the most current and updated forms posted to the CNP website as they're completed. So the form that's posted on the CNP website is the most current and updated at that time. Please note that this is a work in progress, so it may take us a little bit of time to get all of the forms and resources updated. All right. That is the conclusion of the slides and information that I have for you today. As always, you can contact us here at the LDOE Division of Nutrition Support at 225-342-9661, or you can send an email to childnutritionprograms@la.gov. I see a question about average meal cost. So average meal cost is going to change a little bit for next year. We talked about it at length at the last state update that we had back in April. And instead of average meal cost, what we're pivoting to is more of like an adult meal cost, and it's going to be the federal reimbursement rate plus commodities. We've got a formula that we're going to be putting out. I would encourage you to reference the state update slides and look for adult meal cost information. And that's what we're going to be using. And all visitor meals, at cost meals, adult meals will have to be priced at that amount or higher. I'm sure once we get the reimbursement rates for the upcoming school year, we'll release the exact dollar amount that it's going to be for breakfast and lunch. But that's how we're going to do it this year after talking to other states. I think it's going to be a more middle of the road approach to helping you all come up with a reasonable amount to charge for adult meals or recoup for adult meals. Give one more second for questions in the chat since we are a little bit before our hour is up. All right. Well, thank you all so much for attending today. I hope you all have a really excellent summer. I hope that you find a little bit of time somewhere to squeeze in some rest. And all right, let us know if you need anything.